Let's start by removing this wheel. If you have a hubcap, go ahead and remove that. Usually it has little plastic caps. With a 19mm, you can remove those and then pull off the hubcap. Mine isn't here, so I'm just going to use my 19mm socket, remove all 5 of my lug nuts, and then take the wheel off. Now with the wheel off, I'm going to start by breaking free this jam nut here. It's pretty rusty, so I'm going to spray it with some rust penetrant. Hopefully that helps me out. Let's use a 21mm socket. Try to break this free. There we go. Sometimes if this doesn't work, you can use a rubber mallet on your wrench. Okay, now that this is broken free, we can move on to removing this cotter pin, which I might not be able to remove judging by its condition here, but I'll give it a shot. Oh, looks like I was able to break it free. I'm going to cut off the excess here so I can hammer it through. Now I can grab it on this side and pull it out. And if you can't remove your cotter pin, just cut it flush with the nut, hammer your socket on here, and then just take off the nut over the cotter pin. This is a 19mm nut. Remove it. Now take your hammer and hammer on the knuckle. That way you can break the stud free from the knuckle. There we go. At this point you want to count the number of turns that it takes to remove this tie rod fully. That way when you put it back on, you know how far in to go. You'll still need an alignment after this, but this will get you close. There we go. Write that number down or remember it. Now let's remove this nut so we can get the boot off. And my boot is in very poor condition, as you can see. So usually there's a clamp here, which I guess the clamp is still here, but the boot's broken. So I'm just going to remove the broken piece. Usually you would take some pliers. I like to use needle nose for this and grab onto this clamp. And then when it comes to this inner part here, there's a clamp on the back side of the boot, which is really hard to see. Way back in there, you'll see a clamp. And the way I'm going to remove this is with my pry bar. I'm going to put it right on the clamp and then take a hammer and just hammer it off. This is a single time use clamp. Take this off. Now grab your boot and slide it over. Bring it in all the way. I'm going to bring it past this little notch here, and I'm actually going to put a little bit of grease on the notch. This will help the boot be able to slide around there when you get your alignment done. So now I'm going to bring it back over, lock it in there. And back here you want to make sure it pushes up and over the power steering rack. Now to secure that inner part right there, I'm going to put a wire tie on this inner portion of the boot. Now I'm going to grab some pliers. I know these are cutters, but it'll do a kind of a 2-in-1 here. I'm going to take it, twist it, that's going to tighten it, and then when it's tight, it'll break off, and now that boot is nice and secure on there. Now for this outer clamp, I'm just going to reuse the original. If yours is weak and doesn't have a lot of spring tension left, you can use a wire tie. Mine's still good though. Make sure the boot is still seated where it needs to be. Perfect. Next, I'm going to apply a little bit of anti-seize to these threads. That's going to help the outer tie rod as well as the jam nut not seize up in the future a little bit. And now drive the nut on. That's going to spread out the anti-seize that I just applied. Take your outer tie rod and put it on the same amount of turns that it took to take it off. Take off the castle nut and put it through the knuckle. Press it down and put the castle nut back on. Snug it up. This new one is an 18mm, 18 foot-pounds. And now you want to make sure that the castle nut lines up with the cotter pin hole, and mine almost does, so I'm going to go a little bit more. I know you can't see it, but trust me, you always want to tighten, not loosen, to get these lined up. Put the cotter pin through, bend it over, and this is what's going to lock it in. Bring the jam nut closer, and then we'll snug it up. Give it a good snug. All right, and then bring the tie rod back so that it's sitting parallel with the knuckle. Let's get the wheel back on. Start on all 5 of your lug nuts, snug them up, and then torque them to 100 foot-pounds. And now if you have a hubcap, go ahead and put that on as well.